All right, welcome. So today we're going to talk about the initial stages of a concept, an idea, a brand, a book, a podcast. We're going to go all the way back to stage one, and that is where you feel the inspiration, something falls inside of your lap, or something calls you to a special assignment. This is the moments where your message, your idea, and everything begins to kind of take root inside of you and begin to ruminate inside of you, and you stop becoming just interested in the idea, but you actually feel it like a calling and an assignment upon your life. Now, the reason why this matters is because there are a lot of people on the sidelines, and there are a lot of people that want to create something great. And what they fail to often understand is that the greatness that they are looking for when it comes to influence and credibility and building a brand is stages, and that it is a series of processes that they go through to get where it is that they want to go. So inside of this whole conversation, it benefits us greatly to know where we're currently located. Now, I consider it one of my superpowers is to look at the transformative process inside of where people want to go, and then to identify where it is that they're located, and then to begin to think and journey motif and format to get them to where it is that they want to go. In fact, almost everything inside of life from point A to point B is a transformational journey process. And in between point A and point B is multiple different steps and stages that get you to where it is that you want to go. All right. Now, when I was young, we used to play Atari and a television, and then they came out with Nintendo. Now, obviously, I'm dating myself, but if you were in the Atari stage, you remember that game Pitfall, where you would swing across the vines and jump across the alligators and all these different things, and then you would go to the next level, and it would be a series of levels that would get more and more difficult as you go along. And that is, everything would change and everything would step it up another level and get a little bit more difficult. And what Nintendo brought out through multiple different games in laying out the stages for people to go on. One of my personal favorites, I liked all the quest games, so like Zelda, Crystallis, Foxandu. Like, these games were like quest that people went on, and there were different levels and stages with different enemies at the end of that stage. And what it was is that you didn't have the talent, skills, and abilities to go to the next stage without getting the equipment and everything that you needed at stage one. Let me give you an example. If you go over to the game Zelda, and you started the game at stage one, you would have 3 hearts, right? You started the game and you already knew where the last bad guy was. And so you decided to go up there and bomb and to go into the 9th level. You would go 1 or 2 rooms in, and it will signify that you do not have permission to enter. And that is, you haven't done the work. You don't have the talent, skills, and resources necessary to be here. Go back and go through the stages because you don't have the strength and the power and the equipment to even make it into the next room. All right. And if they did let you in for some reason, if the game was designed that way, you would die in a couple of rooms ahead because you wouldn't have any of the tools necessary to complete the enemy. All right. So when it comes to brand building and influence and podcasting and all these different things, that there is levels and stages to each stage. All right. And I am a kind of verbal processor. And so when I first started this different series last year around Christmas time, this analogy came out of my mouth. And I was like, holy smokes, that is so good, so good. So I've been ruminating on this thing for like 30 weeks. And I think it's an amazing, amazing stage and structure. And I'm super excited to share it with you. I think it's going to be a great book that helps people understand the journey and process to creating a brand, into creating influence. And it's going to be highly beneficial for them. Okay. Now, it won't take you too long inside of the marketing world to hear about the hero's journey motif. You've probably are going to pick up the book at some time, The Story Brand. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. It is a foundational book to any sort of influence and brand building endeavor. Okay. And what it lays out for is like the hero's journey motif, and that your customer is on a journey and they're the hero in the story, and that you come along with the talent, skills, and abilities to help them be successful inside of their quest. I mean, if we can start our influence at this ground level foundation, I think that we would be far ahead of most. All right. But inside of that hero's journey is the call to adventure. And that is that there's something inside of that happens that begins to interrupt the normal life. Now, some of my favorite movies, they all have this. You take the Lord of the Rings, where everything is peaceful and everything is as it should be. And the starting scene is kind of peaceful and serene. And then something interrupts. Something happens. You take it to the Gladiator. He comes back victorious. And it's time to retire. It's time to go home to the family so he can focus on loving his family well and all these different things. And it's going to somewhere good. And then something interrupts, and then something happens. Now, every single amazing story is going to have this kind of call to adventure. And that is, it's going to be a defining moment that interrupts your life. It interrupts you. I've had this multiple different times where something is kind of placed in your path. And you have a couple different options when it seems like God is putting something in your path. You have a couple different options. You can ignore it. You can refuse it, right? There's all kinds of people that refuse the call. And that is, they get an idea, they get inspiration about a business or a product, and they sit on it. Right? I have ideas sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if that's out there. And I go and search, and I'm like, it's out there. I'm like, nice. That means that my creative mind is flowing. And just because somebody thought of it first doesn't mean nothing to me, because at least like I'm tapped into kind of creative genius. All right. But the reality is that when in the hero's journey, there is going to become something that interrupts your pattern. Starting a business idea, a product, a book, a course, a podcast, all of these things, they start with a pattern interrupt. Because in your current pattern, you're not yet the thing in most cases, right? If you were thinking about launching a course, and you obviously haven't done it, you're not a course creator, then it's going to interrupt your pattern because your current habits and behaviors are not connected to course creation. Same thing with podcasting or being an author or all of these identity shifts. That there's going to come a time where an idea is going to come and it's going to interrupt your pattern. All right. Now, at this stage, a lot of things get aborted. And by aborted, I mean, you got to think of why something gets abandoned. Why does something get pushed to the side? Why does something get aborted? Now let's just talk about in the natural, why people do this act of terminating a pregnancy, right? And let's go to the superficial reasons first. That it's not particularly what you wanted. It's not what you have planned for. It's rather an inconvenience. I'm not willing to pay the price. I'm not willing to do the work necessary to bring this to completion. Okay, these are kind of like the superficial sort of reasons. And this is exactly when the call to adventure comes that interrupts your pattern. So basically, your nice, comfy little life gets shattered with your idea. And most business ideas or course creation or coaching programs and all of these different things, it's like dropping a bomb off inside of your current structure and routine. And that is to say, it's not very comfortable. Now, in olden times, the prophets had a burden. And that is that they were told to like eat the scroll, to embody the message, get this on the inside of you. And it was to signify that they were going to have a burning desire and a burden for the message that they were going to carry out. And I don't care which way you look at it, a burden is a sense of responsibility. It is a sense of duty, and it's something that has to be carried. All right? Think of it in the pregnancy once again. It's something that has to be carried. In order to give birth to this thing, it has to be welcomed and received, and the seed has to be planted, and it has to be carried, and it has to be nurtured. If ever it's going to create the life that you wanted to create. So when we're talking about brand building, creating influence, it all starts with a burden. What bothers you? A burden is a problem that you see in the world that you would rather not have it so, and that you are uniquely qualified to handle that problem. And once you see this thing, you just can't unsee it. And then comes the sense of duty and responsibility that since you are the one who sees it, then you are the one who is empowered to do something about this thing. Okay? And usually it comes to some sort of disgust. Like, I can't stand that this happening to people. Like, for example, if you're a author and you help other authors become authors, you have to be able to look at the industry in a sense of disgust and how they are taking advantage of people and having people put $50,000, $60,000 on the line to buy all of these different books when they haven't even fleshed out the reality or have the influence necessary to sell that many books, right? That should make you feel some type of way. And so when you see that problem, you can be like, well, I think that is a big problem. And I don't like that people are being taken advantage of in that way. So I feel, because I see the problem, that I am empowered to change that, to create a better system and process that doesn't hurt and abuse people. Now, you can take that into weight loss, you can take that into finances, you can take that into any realm that you want. But if you have the idea and you have the burden and you cannot unsee it, that, my friends, is the birth of the journey. All right? Now, this is just the beginning phases. Now, that is you're just getting the idea. What I would like to say right here is a bit of understanding that the mode or method of creation, they're all vehicles. And they're all vehicles that accomplish something for the person, right? And every single one of these endeavors, whether it's blogging, authorship, course creation, podcasting, social media influence, like however you go about to create, it's particularly accomplishing something of a personal nature. And that is, you are building a personal brand. So in this first beginning stage is just the idea of that personal brand. And that is, what am I going to embody? What pain do I see in the world? What wound do I want to heal? What burden do I carry? What win do I want to give people? What conviction do I have at a heart level? Now, these are the questions that you begin to ask at the beginning stages. All right. And this leads to your communication and influence. At the beginning stages, your voice is just being ignited. And that is, you're not going to particularly have all the confidence yet because you're still in the process of getting clarity, understanding what has fallen into your lap, and how are you going to go about nurturing the thing that fell into your lap. I want you to think of the old cartoons on how babies showed up. You remember the stork would fly in and drop the baby. I want you to think of brand building and influence as kind of the stork. that it comes in and it drops the baby. And that is, we have a responsibility now. Are we going to care for it? Are we going to do something with it? So let me map out this journey that brought this whole inspiration. And that is when it comes to brand building and influence, that most people desire to get to the vast ocean. And I've described kind of the vast ocean of creating a personal brand and influence that makes you multi-million dollars. And that you have an impact and a reach of maybe 100,000 or more. And that you're creating a system and a legacy out of your personal brand. That is kind of the ocean. Big, big thinking. But nobody starts there. That's why we start here at what I'm calling the rainfall. And that is, I just dropped out of the sky. The start just delivered the baby. The seed has just been planted. Stage one. Wouldn't it benefit us greatly to know what stage one looked like, what the enemies on this stage are, and how I can begin to navigate this stage? And wouldn't it be beneficial if I understood how to get to the next stage? That's what I'm here to do. All right. So we got rainfall. This is just the inspiration hits. Think of it, the water falls from the sky. Now, from the water falling from the sky until the time that it gets to the ocean, well, there's certain avenues and channels and all these different things that it goes through before it ever hits the ocean. And that's the whole analogy that I've created for brand building and for influence, is that rainfall is just the inspiration that hits, and that is something has dropped into your lap, and a burden or a message has come upon you. And now you cannot personally unsee it any longer. In fact, if you do not take action, it will disturb you. And boy, will it disturb you. And the reason why I feel like it's divinely orchestrated to disturb you is because that's the way God designed it. The burden is a fire that will consume you until you take action. Okay? So, in this stage, the idea gets embraced and a responsibility hits, and this communicates at the end of this stage that this is mine to build. This is my burden. All right. Now the next stage is the pond, and that is kind of contained potential. Is that when the rainfall comes, it goes into a puddle or creates a pond. And this is kind of the stage where the idea is kind of still private. It's in a very small circle. Right? And sometimes that circle is just you and your family, or you and your business coach, or you and the people in your mastermind. And that is just very, very small kind of stage. And all it is a contained potential inside of a very small circle. And inside of that circle, it's very safe. There's not really any big risk that is associated inside of the pond. Okay? It's very contained. Now, with that is also the limitations that it's not particularly going anywhere either. And the biggest risk is letting that comfort just kind of sit inside of that pond. And we know ponds, that if there ain't some sort of system to bring into fresh water or some sort of energy and movement that creates, what does that get? It gets stagnation. All right. Then the next stage, which is stage 3, is the outlet. And this is where things begin to move. This is where you begin to take the thing publicly. This is where you begin to break out of your comfort zone and your little circle. This is where you start moving. And at this stage, once you get going and once you start taking the steps, there ain't no going back. I'm sorry, you cannot return to the pond. You can, but it's going to be the death of you. All right. So this is the stage where the momentum is irreversible. There is no going back. If we go back, that means we're settling for compromise. Now, if you are a person of faith, you understand that the children of Israel left the bubble of Egypt, of slavery, and they were implanted with this hero's journey motif of an idea, of a hope, of going into the ocean, which for them was a land that was flowing with milk and honey. And that is, they saw a future vision of themselves where it was where there was greatness and there was abundance and there was all of these different things. And so they left. And they begin to be inside of kind of like the pond of the wilderness. And that is, they were self-contained among themselves. And they had to make a decision at some point that they were going to become an outlet and that they were going to move forward. And we know that many decided that they were not going to move forward, and they suffered the fruit and the consequences of that decision. All right? Because they refused to bust the bubble of the comfort zone of the pond. In fact, they said, let's just go back to Egypt. And that's what I'm talking about. You can either step forward with the momentum or you can go back and forget it all. At this point of stage number 3, you got to be all in at this point. All right. Stage 4 is going to lead you to the stream. And that is early momentum. You start beginning to master the reps inside brand building and influence and structure and routine and communication, how you're going to show up. Okay. And it's a little bit messy. Of course it is. It's a little bit unstructured. Yes. But you're getting the reps and you're getting the habits that are producing the traction that is going to earn you confidence and gain you more momentum, which is stage 5, the river. And that is, now you got a flow. Now you got a direction. Now you're building systems and processes and clarities and multiple different offers, and your growth becomes steady and predictable. And you are now operating like a brand builder and not a dabbler. All right. Which leads to 6, which is confluence, and that is to merge with bigger waters. All right, there is a time where rivers begin to merge with other rivers and streams and kind of a interdependent sort of endeavor that pushes for. You're merging, you're connecting, you're building partnerships and platforms and networks and collaborations, and you're multiplying your reach above this kind of solo mind thinking. And that leads you to the ocean. Stage 7, legacy and impact. And your message begins to gain depth and you begin to scale, and it creates influence that lives far beyond you. All right. So now that you understand the stages, you understand why I'm talking at stage 1 and kind of leading you through that process. But here's where I want you to begin, is that inside of this journey, it is about your personal growth. I want to say first off that you cannot grow as a brand and influence or your ability above that which is connected to your personal growth. Now, there's some people that seem to grow beyond their personal level of growth, but they're like firecrackers, and that is we look at them and ooh and ah, and look at how talented they are, and they soon disappear. And not only that, but their character issues will disqualify them along the way. And we've seen this through preachers and faith-based leaders. We've seen this through influencers who get these court indictments because they have done something shady in the past. Right? And that it is that they look like they were being successful, but their character couldn't sustain their growth. Right? So it all comes back to this. That my brand, my influence, and my business is going to grow to the level of my heart, my inner growth, and my mindset. And this is why personal growth is the foundation for any form of personal brand building, influence, or business. All right? Because on a personal brand, everything is correlated to your persona. And that is who you are. That's why it's called a personal brand. It's your personal. You are the attraction method. You are the person that people want to become. They see what you're doing and they want to do likewise. They are inspired by your courage and your leading the way, and they want to do the same thing that you are doing. There's no equation where you can build a personal brand if you are not focused on a solid reputation. A solid reputation is what a personal brand is built on. I want influence, but I'm going to have a bad reputation. You know what happens to businesses inside of communities that have a bad reputation and all of these low star reviews is that people just stop showing up. I mean, there's a tire store on the corner that is absolutely as shady as can be, and I don't even know how that they're still in business to this day, right? Maybe they just keep on catching ignorant people. But they are absolutely shady, they're unethical, and all of these different things, and it's not going to be long before they just kind of hit survival mode. Is that because their reputation will catch up with them, all right? So here in the seed form idea, it's about my personal growth. It's about the capacity and the enlargement of my own heart. And it's about me building a solid reputation that is centered around integrity. All right. Because this whole thing is built upon reputation. Right. This is why people have reputation managers. This is why people that get into some sort of shady stuff have people come in as reputation brand consultants in order to fix their problem, because their influence, their credibility, their cash flow, and everything contingents upon their name. Tiger Woods, I know the firm that represented him. I had an interview with the company that when someone like this damages their reputation or falls out of integrity, or collapses their image, they bring on a team that comes in and tries to fix all of these things, all right? Because reputation matters that much, okay? Your reputation is your brand. Your consistency in the way that you show up is your brand, all right? All right, so first off, now in the rainfall stage, it's not your job to build the whole thing. Your basic job at this point is to begin to practice awareness. And that is, I got this idea and I'm going to capture this thing. And so at this stage, it's more about processing. Did you know that, it's my personal opinion, but I think it's a pretty strong one, that we have ideas and modes of thoughts in rainfall all the time at a consistent basis. And those things are the seed form to create the prosperity, the cash flow, the credibility, the influence, and the impact, everything that we're looking for. And we do not seize the opportunity. And we don't recognize the seed, we don't nurture it, we don't entertain the idea, and we pass on by it all the time. All the time we do this, all right? And so the differentiator from those who are successful and those who are not, in my personal opinion, is the ability to practice awareness, to see and to understand the thing that has been put inside of their lap, or the seed and the idea, and to begin to take advantage, to seize the opportunity, and to run with it. That is the difference between those who are successful and are not. So in the rainfall stage is just capturing. The rain falls, goes into a puddle, and the whole thing is just to kind of capture. Can you name the idea? Can you elaborate further on the idea? For the rainfall to become a pond, it needs a container. And a container is, and I have one of these on my country property there in New London, is that when it rains, there is a certain path to the rain, and you're going to have to dig it out into the flow of the rain in order to create a container that is going to be the pond. And you also need a little bit of an outlet for it to carry on when your pond gets a little bit too big. So you need an inlet and you need an outlet. This is just the reality of the container, all right? So at your stage right now, if you are in stage one, it's literally to create a container for the ideas. Are you sitting down and are you fleshing those things out? If not, it's just another bright idea. It's just another thing that you're not going to take action on. All right. So the challenge at this stage, when the initial thought and idea falls and it doesn't get carried on, we talked about aborting the mission, refusing the assignment. But why does that happen? Number one is overwhelm. And that is the idea feels a little bit too big to hold at the present time. And this is real. This is so real. Like I see the vision of my future self and what it is that I'm creating, and it is an absolute elephant. And then when I look at the elephant, then I just start getting a little shaky. That's because there is so much to do, and it is so large that if I started looking at that, it would be absolute overwhelm. And that is, your idea should be that big. It should be that big. But the challenge here is overwhelm. And the overwhelm comes, well, how am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this? And not integrating, well, what is this next step for me to begin to carry this thing out? Number two is fog, okay? And that is, you got a partial. And that's what a lot of the beginning stages are. It's partial. And that is, as you go along a very small path that you can't see the ocean, okay? You just dropped out of the sky. You're in the Midwest. The ocean is not even in view, right? But you have a mindset that that's where you're going, but you cannot see the ocean. You don't even particularly kind of know what the ocean looks like. If you've never seen it, you don't know. You don't know what the ocean is like if you've never experienced it. I don't know what it's like. I know that it's a land flowing with milk and honey, and that it's a far better cry than my wilderness experience that I have now. So we can't see it. But as we begin to take steps forward and get momentum, all of a sudden, it expands. And that's the whole goal in this lessons that I'm giving, is that I'm teaching you expansion. That we are starting somewhere and it's very beginning sort of seed form thoughts. We're going to expand and we're going to create something big. And as we take step forward, things become more and more clear. And each step forward, it becomes clearer and clearer. So the enemy at this stage, rainfall, is fog. I can't see the whole picture. And let me tell you, when it comes to faith, that you don't need to see the whole staircase. All you need to see is the next step you should take. And during this time, a lack of clarity causes people to stall. And that is, they want to see the ocean. They want all the steps and the processes all kind of laid out for them. And that's just not the way life works. And so there is a natural fog. And that is, if I was going through a quest game and it's my first time through the quest, and I'm navigating the map and I'm trying to find level 1. At the beginning of the game, I'm fogged. And that is, there isn't a lot of clarity on where World 1 is located. And after World 1, it isn't very clear about where World 2 is located. And if I don't have privy information, I don't even know the enemies that are at level 1, and I don't know the enemies that are at level 2. I just don't know. And that is, there's not clarity. There's fog. And that is the only thing that you need to worry about at this stage 1 of rainfall is the idea and the container and how to begin to flesh out this so you can begin to take the next steps necessary that is going to get you to the next stage and to the next level. But you got to step forward in this. All right. Number 3 challenge inside of rainfall is the hunger validation. And that is, if we haven't done a lot of heart work, we are looking for permission. We're looking for permission from our wives. We're looking for permission from our pastors. We're looking for permission from our government leaders. We're looking for permission from our dead father. Like, we're looking for permission from God and all these different things that we're just stuck at this level until we get enough validation or affirmation. And the danger, of course, is that it doesn't come. Now, if you want permission to receive, to do, and to be, and to have everything that God wants you to have, and you need somebody to say it, I'll give you permission. If you need somebody to embody God for you and tell you straight out, that God, let me tell you, I'll tell you right now. The Father says that He gives you permission to be everything that He has called you to be, to do everything, and to have everything. In fact, He gives you permission to reach your full potential. He has placed the investment in your lap. And there is going to be a time where we give an account for the things that we were put in our lap. Did we take responsibility for it? Did we see it? Did we embody it? Did we receive it? Did we run with it? Did we create growth? All right. Number 4, struggle inside of Rainfall is comparison. Somebody else already had this idea. Somebody else is already talking about this. Somebody else already has a course on this. Somebody else already wrote a book about that. Do you think that when it comes to marketing, podcasting, and personal branding, do you think there's plenty of books out there? Absolutely. I'm going to create one anyways, because I have a unique perspective that I've come from nothing, on the wrong side of the tracks, drug addicted, welfare baby, ward of the court, runaway. I have a totally different perspective. And so I'm going to rock my perspective. I'm not going to sit there and compare myself with somebody else. All right. Lastly, number 5 is perfectionism. You think that you have to have it all figured out. One of the worst things that we can do is think that we should be operating at ocean capacity when we just fell out of the sky, when the rainfall just came. We're not going to have the structures, the systems, and the processes that the men and the women in the ocean have. Okay. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. You're going to initially suck at a lot of different things. There is nothing about the challenges at Rainfall that says that this is the final product. This is incubators. This is seed kind of putting into the ground, right? There's nothing final about this. It's just the receptivity and the rumination and the fleshing out of the container of what is possible. Lastly is false urgency, and that is trying to begin to execute something before you have defined it. And that is right now, it is a time to get clear. What is the idea that I have? What has been placed inside of my lap? What burden do I have that I cannot shake? And what problem have I seen in the world or in my world? Church world, marketing world, self-help world. What have I seen that I can't not ignore? You answer these questions, that's what it's all about at this stage at Rainfall. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.